So we are now recording. Ronnie, can you believe that we're already on standard 6? So
I know.
we're over the halfway point. Just crazy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna miss the meetings though.
I know. I said that to I said that in our instructor meeting. I was like, I'm really enjoying my time with him. So that's how it,
Me
it,
too.
it kind of came up. But all right. So for standard 6 is
Yeah.
assessments. And
Yes.
we talked, and I guess, did you talk to Catherine about what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I did. And she said it's prefer is that there's every you should do it. You should submit a video every time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want, you can refer. You can refer to different points that you have submitted before. That
Yeah.
that
And I
would
saw
be
that in your reflection.
yeah.
Good. Okay, so for the first element is formative and summative assessments. And thought you did a really good job there. I said throughout your instruction, you used varied types of assignments, diagnostic, formative, and summative.
Uh-huh.
And you, the best that you could, would reflect or look at the students' responses. So if it's formative, you would genuinely listen to what they were saying and scaffold your questions
Yeah.
accordingly. The diagnostic, you looked over how they did on that. You had a goal of where you wanted them to improve. I think, did you say 24 percentage points is what they did, but you wanted a little bit more?
One of the topics they did that was I think they did on I think break even thing.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is the quality part. They did the very first thing that they did the similar thing with that break even. But the
They did.
one they did very well is on the quality assurance, quality control part. I think the main reason is because they taught and they talked amongst each other. That's the main difference was more on that topic than the others.
Okay.
And yeah, and also I think I could have done some hands-on. I did, but I think if I had an access to IT equipment and infrastructure, then I could have used some
Sure.
numbers that they can put in, put the input in, and then they play around with the number. I think that would have done a great justice to their time, and I think they would have improved a lot. They really need improvement in that. I have kept that in mind. I think I'll do a recap or review sometimes. If I do, I'll make sure that they I do some more work on that because I noticed that not so performing ones, not so attentive ones did the same mistake again. The
Did
good ones
they?
overcame it, but yeah. The thing is, that's the whole point. If they don't get it, that means you're not very good. Good ones or mediocre ones will get it, but
Sure.
the ones who are not performing at all, if they don't get it, that means we didn't do a very good job. That's what really worries me because they kind of did similar mistake. Uh, they improved in some, but they did a similar mistake again. So that's not acceptable at all.
But on the flip side of that, I think it's better if they make the same consistent mistake than if they get that and then they make another mistake. And then it's like they get that and then they make a different one. So at least
No.
you can focus on what they're continually making the
Yeah.
mistakes and work on that. Did you
Uh,
say it's only a couple students that are doing that, or is it a large
no,
part of the?
it's not large part. It's the bottom. I think 20% of the student population.
Okay.
And the type of the mistake that is evident, either they're not paying attention to what they're reading or they haven't looked at anything at home at all. Either way, but still, I think the issue, the school classwork should have been enough for them to get it. That's my
Yeah.
point. I think that was my objective, that everyone should get that.
Sure.
At least
Sure.
that thing that I have, because I already identified the problem in the diagnostic. Then I tried to do it consciously. So why, how they missed, how they sleep. Most likely, I relied on their effort more than my focus on them, or somehow it slipped. I didn't like it really.
Right. Well, one thing that's clear is that you do reflect on how they did, and
Yeah,
you decide like if you like what you see or if you don't, and that's really great. No teacher is perfect. Sometimes it can be frustrating to see a recurring mistake, but
yeah,
that's all part of the game. And
yeah,
the fact though that you are so aware of it is good. You know,
Yeah.
it shows that you care and you understand like the purpose of it. So I think that was really good. So for alignment of why can't I say that?
Assessment with objectives.
Yes, thank you. Um, they I saw you wrote that they use the same you use the same questions as those on the diagnostic test, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. And then I had a candidate in my clinicals that was very confused by the part that says minimizes sources of bias that can distort assessment results. So I looked up a lot about that part for her because she wanted clarification on it. So that's why I just put those 2 bullet points. When I looked it up, what that part means is the general questions are, you know, does a teacher have an environment where there's no distractions? So when they're doing like a summative assessment or a diagnostic, or is the environment free of distractions? And then one of the other things that I found when I was looking up about this standard, this element of the standard, was are the questions free of distracting items? And like what this meant is the questions on the test or the quiz, do they convey like equality? Like, is there anything there that could be considered maybe like controversial or something that would make them uncomfortable? So
No, there's not.
I wanted to put those bullet points there just because I did look up so much about that part because I had a candidate that asked about it. So
There is none that, but there is no physical distraction either. No, in that respect, it was okay because
yeah,
those questions are pretty standard question that was provided with the resource of
sure,
the
sure.
author who wrote the book. I just edited them to that content that was teaching. So that's what it is. Pretty much, they're good. They didn't have any bias in terms of that some students might have some undue advantage because of the background. Maybe they're came from well off families, so know those contexts, or they didn't. They knew it because of other contexts. Maybe they were familiar at home. That happens sometimes. So
Sure.
those things are not there. It's all there is not also there is no like cultural issues that if you are accustomed to some certain ideas that might give you some advantage, then in some cases it helps.
Yeah.
But I don't think in this case there is none like that. And physical destruction wise, not on that day. There is not nobody came in bumping the class in the middle or nothing happened, something like that.
All
And the
right.
class is that is okay.
Good. Good stuff.
Yeah.
For effective use of assessments, I just wanted to ask you about this. So you did a great job, again, as I mentioned earlier, with the diagnostic. You continually use formative assessments and then summative assessments. I looked at the standard and it talks about, does the candidate effectively use multiple and appropriate types of assessments to identify each student's learning needs and guide the development of differentiated learning experiences? That's a mouthful. So do you ever give them any opportunities to complete an assignment or an activity, a project in different formats? Like they can do, I know the one where they did the presentation. Like, were there other options of other ways they could submit that
Uh-huh.
presentation?
You said that voice on choice. Okay. So what happens sometime that if they miss the test or miss the assignments, what I ask them, what do you want to do? Do you want me to assign you a question that you write, or you can do there are some activities in the book. I usually, if they use the textbook, I give them a larger chunk of work. If I don't assign them any question, maybe I let them write many definitions, summary, and the key points from the chapter. No, they don't. They cannot have. I rarely did allow them to choose on their own to have a choice that okay, I want to do this for my replacement assignment. I haven't done that, but I could do it. So I
It's
did.
it's interesting because I'm trying to push myself to do that more. So my students are working on a paper right now, and I gave them a choice board, and they could submit the paper, they could submit an Animoto video, they could do an animation, they could do Powtoon, they could record themselves talking. And the most popular one by far was still the paper. They still wanted to just do the essay. I don't know if they're just not used to getting choices, so they don't know how to handle it, or if they thought that that's what I would want. So we'll see. I mean, for me, I tried it and I offered it to them, but I would say out of 120 students, maybe 5 picked something different. Everybody else picked an essay. So, not to say like offering different choices would be that all the kids would jump at it. They might still do your
They
original
might be
assignment.
lost.
Yeah, and I think that like, also
And
could be what it is.
also, it's very difficult to align them in the objective of the lesson, because they'll choose. They might choose something that is not very close to the objective that they wanted to go.
Well,
So
and that's
there's another.
you have to make the rubric general
Yeah,
enough that it'll.
fit there.
And even like my students, the girl that picked to do a PowerPoint, at first she was
Okay.
just putting bullet points, and in my opinion, doing like 3 bullet points on 2 slides is not the equivalent of writing an essay. So I said, well, you're going to have to add voice into that, and you can like verbally convey what you're trying to get across. But to me, that's like apples and oranges, having a PowerPoint with a couple bullet points and then having a full-fledged, well-composed essay. So it can be hard. It's
Yeah.
honestly, I just put that because there is that movement of, giving choice, but it's new to me. And I think it's new to many students based on the fact that most of them still picked the essay. So, but anyway, I just put that there, just something to think about, and just wanted to kind of see if you had any luck giving them different choices. And then the next one is accommodations in assessments. I know we've talked about like the makeup of your students. Do you offer any kind of modifications in your assessments for the students? Does anybody have a different prompts or different questions, reduced answer choices?
I do have some options to have extra timing. So I gave to new students some extra time, and so that they can complete. And also the time is reduced. The rest of the class also got some extra time, but they get more than that. They got, I think, 5 minutes or so more than the rest of the class. So the rest of the class got 5 or 6 minutes or so.
And when
So
they're done, when the students that need extra time, if they're still working, are the other students still do they just sit there quietly, or how does that work?
So what happens for that particular class? They had a free period after this. I think after my class, or they had a CSCB rehearsal, so there's some sort of break in between. So I said, okay, fine, do one thing. So you guys finish, and you take a little bit more. And I told the prefect, because I had another class, I said, when you collect them, and you had it open break time. So that's what they did. I think after they finished, most of the class went to the AC rehearsal, and the other 2 stick to the work and finished it and had it.
Do you find that students take advantage of the extra time? Like if you offer it to them, do they use it? Yeah.
They sometimes they do, not all of them, but some of them do. Some of them tend to have a more lengthy. They sometimes argue the prefect, and some
Sure.
of them don't submit it on time, and then they have to look for them. Where is the copy? Where is it? What is your marking password? So what that happened? It actually happened that very day I took that marking classwork. It happened to one of the late joiners who didn't
Yeah.
submit his marking classwork. I said, where is it? And he says, sir, it must be in my bag. I somewhere I forgot. I said, where is it? You have to give it to me. I can't give you marks. And then he submitted, and I figured that he didn't finish it. Right? He just did. I think last one he didn't do it at all.
He did.
He tried to do it. Yeah, that's what he did.
Oh
But he
goodness.
tried. I think he did good. He did two marks correctly on the break-even thing. The other 2 he didn't. He didn't try to.
Yeah. Do you guys have, like, if you have a student that has like a learning disability, or
No,
they need
I
some
don't
other kind.
have any IP or anything. No,
Yeah, I was going to ask if you guys have
we have that.
IEPs.
We don't have IPs per se in that, but we have some sort of procedures from this year to follow through for academic and behavior and physical
Okay.
challenges. But fortunately, or unfortunately, we didn't have the opportunity to help somebody who needed
Yeah.
this.
Okay. Okay. So just so you kind of know what I do. I have many students with IEPs, and like on an assessment, sometimes I'll give them a little bit of, if it's a writing prompt, instead of, for my like general students, it'll be a paragraph with a couple different questions in that paragraph. Like identify the story that you're reading and the author, right? Why it was engaging. What was the climax? What was the resolution? And that would all be in a paragraph. So just for a student with an IEP, what I often do is I still have them ask the same question, but I'll chunk it for them. So instead of it being in like one paragraph with all these
To
like five
break it up.
questions, I break it up. Yeah. So I mean, these are
I
things
think, yeah,
that you might do.
yeah, it also always helps, and especially organization and the breaking up is basically organizing the things for them. So
Right.
if they see what is coming towards them, it really helps them. I think it's mainly who are very highly functional. I think they have the only issue is organization. If you
Yeah.
let them know what it is expected of them, and if you show them, they can do it.
Right.
I have no experience, but I think we had a module on that,
Yeah.
and I had a little bit of work, and I figured that the main key thing is to have some sort of organization,
Right.
structure,
Right.
and you help them with if they're very visual, help them with visual stuff, or boil it down to their comfort level.
Yeah.
That really works for the IPs. And if they're very kind of uh, special, then you really need professionals who can
Yeah.
really help them with very special
And I
attention.
would say that's probably the minority. Like you said, I think, at least in my experience and at my school, we have a lot of students with IEPs, but I would say they're high functioning. It's usually just the organization or the comprehension, or something like that. Um, we have a handful of students that fall into like the severe, but most of them are in a different kind of program, where they get that extra, even they get extra support all the time. So
And I suspect that we might have some in our school, maybe. At least I figured now that they might be needing help. But as we do not have a proper process and training for every personnel or most of my colleagues, that is gone unnoticed. And
right.
also the dogma in the society that in here, especially if your kid is struggling, you don't try to face the situation. You try to hide it. You
Gotcha.
hide it under the rug, and it's a very, I think it's a cultural thing as well.
Yeah,
Uh, so it is. I think it might be in every culture that every parents wants their kid to
I
what
think
they
so.
want to do, but
Yeah.
some culture take it functionally, very functional.
Yeah.
I think it's not only with the kids. Yeah, I think it's very, it's a similar approach towards the outlook of life. So that differs. I think that's one of the main thing. That's why the whole practice in the schoolings and everybody is not developed at all.
Sure.
But
Sure.
I think there are people who really works better in terms of structured way, very
Yeah.
efficiently, quite in
Yeah.
school.
And what
And
I
I can
always
figure that they need help, but
Yeah. Yeah, and what I always tell my students, I say, listen, I'll offer these to you, the students that have IEPs. I'll say, I'll offer them to you. You don't have to use them. If you want to, you can. But my goal for you is by the end of the year to, like, let's be using them less. I don't want them to be depending on them, especially because when I taught seniors, when I taught 12th grade, most colleges do not honor IEPs. So they're not going to necessarily have those same modifications in college. So
no.
I try to wean them off of it. So by the end of the year, we're either using it less or we're not using them at all. So that's what I try to do.
Uh,
So,
Do you think there could be a downside of it if you have a process like that? Some parents might push you to put the kids into the IEPs or any special kind of attention that might happen as well? Do you think? Because I
Yeah.
have not got any experience as such, but I suspect that it might be so that some parents might be thinking that their child needs special attention even though they need it.
Yes. Very,
Does it happen
very
like that?
much so. Oh yeah, I really do. Unfortunately, I think it happens way more than it should. Probably, honestly, I really do. I do, and we say that often. I, without a doubt, think that there's some students that need extra support. They have learning challenges. Without a doubt, there are students that have that. But we have a lot of students that are evaluated, and yeah,
Yeah, I can imagine.
it's definitely a hard thing to
It's a
balance.
very balancing act.
It
Yeah,
is, and because an IEP is a legal document,
there you go.
it has to be honored. And once the lawsuits in the United States in the special education are astronomical. A lot of families sue because IEPs aren't being followed, and it's a really, I don't know, it's an interesting situation with the special education, in my opinion, in the United States. And yeah, I have some teachers, some people I teach with, they offer modifications to every student, and they say if you think you need them, use them. It's like
Uh-huh.
nobody, because sometimes there might even be students that aren't identified with an IEP but would benefit from, maybe they do struggle with comprehension, but just because they don't have that legal document, we're not supposed to give them these modifications. So I don't know if there's a perfect answer there, but another easy way to do like the differentiation is, for me, sometimes I will offer like three prompts, three writing prompts, and they can pick one of their
Okay.
choice. So sometimes that's like a good way that the students can pick one that's of interest to them. They all focus on maybe a main point of a story, and they can choose the one that they would like to expand upon the
They feel
most.
like.
Yeah. But I thought assessment was very good for you. So some other comments I just had is, I noticed that you were an observer for a portion of the video lesson that you submitted, which was great. You kind of stepped back and let the students talk, and I overheard a lot of really good discussions in their groups. I heard them using a lot of academic language. They were using a lot of the terms that I know that you've gone over with them, and this idea of the exit slip, the use of the diagnostic test, and I saw the feedback that you sent to me, and it was good because it wasn't just marking what was correct or incorrect, but also it looks like you provided written comments as well to the students, and that takes a lot of time, but I think that they appreciate it, and I hope that they read it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Most of the time, it's really it's never noticed. So most of the time, they don't read it. Yeah.
Yes, I thought it was really good. Do you have any questions for me for Standard 6?
No, I'm good. I have no further question. But one thing I noticed when I let them work amongst themselves, that usually non-performing one, one or two, I mix and match. I gave one of the very good ones, and I gave not so good one. And the not so good one, really, I figured that he really is enjoying the situation, and he's explaining, and he got it very good, very good answers. He got most of the answers right. He got as good as most of the high performers. So that is true.